What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Welcome to PCP Movie Night. I am your host, Rockin, Robbie Billups. We are nearing the end of Crew's Choice here on PCP Movie Night, and tonight is Mike 06's pick, member of the Excitable PCP crew. And tonight he picked a movie from A24. It's from 2019, but I don't think it really got a proper release until 2020 or something like that. I think it was kind of delayed. I don't know that full story. Maybe he knows. But Mike picked Saint Maud. I had never even heard of this film. I watched it. I'm ready to talk about it. And let's bring in a man, Mike.
What's up, everybody? How's it going?
Bro, we haven't had you on in, you haven't been on in forever. Since March.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think I was on one of Manny's shows a few weeks ago or a month ago.
Manny's shows don't count.
True. It's been a while since I've been here on the PCP, talking about movies and whatnot.
The home base.
I should be back for Action Fest. So.
Yeah, but you picked Saint Maud, and so we got a panel of people here to talk about it, including one of my compatriots from Dylan's Horror Show, Vern Diggity. What is up, my man?
Station gentlemen, what's going on? Stoked to do this. The main reason I wanted to do this, I remember now, is because Mike's pick last year was Hot Fire, A24, Hereditary. I'd never heard of that at the time, and I love that movie. Love the crap out of it. So, yeah, I was excited to check this one out. Excited to talk with you fellas about it.
Hell yeah. What is it going to be, Mike? Every year you're going to pick an A24 film? Are you going to be that predictable? Or next year you're just going to be like you're going to be like Slumber Party Massacre 3?
My Crew's Choice, it's movies that I want you to watch that you'll be like, yeah, I'll get around to it, or like, I'll do it sometime. So, it might be another A24. It might be, The Shape of Color. Like, it could be a Blumhouse movie you haven't watched. Like, it's going to be something that I've been like, hey, man, you really need to watch this. You need to really watch this, and you haven't got around to watching it.
Should be Breaking Bad episode 1 next year.
No.
A lot of people tell me that. Like, I'm just going to pick the movie that I think I want you to finally watch. And so, actually, next year we're not doing Crew's Choice, just so y'all know. Just kidding. But, we can't have a PCP movie night without Brooks the Magnificent. What is up, Brooks?
Hi.
Never heard of this one, I bet.
No, I had not.
All right. You excited to talk about it?
Yeah, I am actually. I was curious, like, was the whole William Blake thing in this movie, was that intentional? Like, did Mike know that I was...
No.
Did he know? So was it...
But that's 2 movies that we've done that are connected to William Blake.
Yeah.
That's Crew's Choice.
I thought that was funny. I was like, I wonder if
I feel like it's a synchronicity that I need to read some William Blake because I'm not really that familiar with his work. I just know of him.
What
And
was
between Dead Man.
Dead Man, okay.
Because the name of the character Johnny Depp plays is William Blake, and then nobody who is the Native American thinks that he's like the reincarnation of William Blake. It's an interesting. Dead Man's fucking fascinating. I bought Dead Man on Blu-ray right after we reviewed it, and I'm probably going to buy this one because on Amazon it was only $10. But last I checked, there was only 10 left. So y'all out there, don't get too greedy.
Man, spend the money and get the Steelbook.
Oh, look at you promoting the Steelbook. All right, Dylan.
Well, I mean, that's all I ever hear is, but I got the slip, I got the Steelbook. So.
No, I might need to check out the Steelbook.
I don't like the image on the image on the Steelbook is okay. I like the classic white, like the original movie poster. So,
all right. So this movie came out in 2019, but it was released more fully in like 2020. But I never heard of it. Of course, it's an A24 film, but it's written and directed by Rose Glass, and I believe this is her first feature film, and it is 100%. And it was nominated for 2 awards at the British Academy Film Awards. And she was named Best Debut Director at the British Independent Film Awards. I loved this movie. I fucking love it. Last week we were talking about Dr. Sleep, Manny's pick. And I said, I was expecting a little bit more out of it or something. It just didn't stick with me like certain things do, right? Like Henry, I think is a movie that sticks with you, right? There are other movies, Hereditary, Midsommar, talking about these A24 films. Most of the ones I watch, they stick with me. And that's what I love. They're like oatmeal, peanut butter, beans, and rice. They stick to your ribs at night. You get what I'm saying? But I stole that from AC alone, so don't. Anyway, I love this film. I was thinking about it. I loved the thematic material. It was kind of boldly taking on religion or spirituality, but like, it was doing it in such a nuanced, complex way that I really liked this movie. I thought it was, when the movie ended, I was like, this movie's solid. And then the more, like, it sticks with me, is what I'm trying to say, which I started out with. But like, I've been thinking about this movie every day since I watched it. And every time Mike's like, I'm going to pick an obscure A24 film that you've never heard of. That's what I thought we were going to be doing tonight. Nah. Mike, you picked the right fucking movie. This movie is resonant. This movie has thematic relevance. And this movie is just incredibly well crafted. And in particular, for a first-time feature film director. Blows my fucking mind. So, debut film for George Romero, Night of the Living Dead. Beautiful, bright, but you see where he learns more of the craft. The craft is already gotten in this film. It's amazing to me. Mike, this was your pick. What do you think about this film? What's your history with it? Why did you pick this film?
So, there's the Caseys, the Nashville Caseys, and the Huntsville Casey are all A24 fans. And he had put a review up on Letterboxd saying like, hey, this film, it's a solid 5. The jump scare at the end is probably one of the best I've ever seen. And then other Casey here in town, she was just like, hey, I really want to see this one. I heard good things about it. So, and it was on Epix, but it was before Paramount and Epix combined. So it's just like, I don't know. Like, who has Epix? Like, why is this an Epix exclusive? Why is this not on Amazon?
It was distributed by Studio Canal, so it's probably some kind of deal they made, right? Because it was obviously not going to get wide theatrical distribution, especially during the pandemic year. Right. So that was when everybody was trying to figure shit out, right?
Because I wanted to say it was supposed to do some awards. It was supposed to do the award rounds, and then the pandemic shut it down, and then it was finally released through Epix. And then they made the deal with Paramount, and I remember it popped up, and it was just like new to watch. And I'm like, okay, so my 2 big, A24 fans are like, this is the one that you need to watch. So I sat down and I watched it, and I just happened to do it right around the same time. We were like, hey, start thinking of your ideas for Crew's Choice. And everybody kept telling me to do other A24 films, and I was just like, nah. I've watched the other two that you wanted me to do, and like this one grabbed me. Like it was just, it's like you said, there's a lot of heaviness in that. Like the other two movies, there's a lot of fucked upness in the way that it's shot and the structure and the story. But like for some odd reason, like this one was just like, this one was good. And then I'm I still probably do Florida Project sometime later down the road, because it's another one that has it's just that thickness. But this one I think just fits better with the crew because it's the horror based. So, but it's excellent. I think I watched it that night and said, "This is what I'm doing, hands down." And got a bunch of flack. I'm like, "Nah, this is what I'm doing." And then I think I watched it maybe like 3 times in 2 weeks, and then I watched it on my day off when I was on the road. So it was one of those like, this movie's just, whoo.
I'm pretty sure when you told me that this was the movie you wanted to do, I called you a pretentious fuck. And I was like, let's maybe try to pick movies that people might want to see us talk about, but no, we need to do this movie because this is a movie I don't think a lot of people know about that need to know more about.
And that's the thing too, because it was like, everybody's like Hereditary and Midsummer, and like, hey, you need to like A24. It's kind of like got these really good horror movies, and you saw like I haven't seen it yet, but I need to watch X. But like it's still kind of the same thing. Like because of the popularity of those, you're gonna get some because of the history with X of who did it. That's one of the reasons why I got pushed to the big screen. But like first time director, first time feature film, I can see it not. It's like, oh, it's not really an indie darling, so we don't want to. There's no big star attached to it, so it's
especially when they're trying to release it at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020.
Right.
So like that was the time when even James Bond was like, "Yo, let me step back," because there's just no time to die when there's a pandemic going on. Get it?
Hey-o.
Bum, bum, bum.
Well, I'm glad you picked it, Mike. I really am. What about you, Vern? This was a movie that stood out to you because you thought Mike's pick was good last year. An A24 film, Hereditary, is what he picked last year. Finally got me to watch that one. Loved it. Dylan got me to watch Midsummer. Loved it. Loving X. Loving everything, everywhere, all at once. I'm loving A24 fucking foreign films.
The Green Knight.
The Green Knight, my favorite movie of last year. Like, Jesus Christ. So right now, my favorite movie this year, my top 2 are A24 films. Vern, what'd you think about this film, man?
I think this is like the 4th or 5th A24 film that I've seen, and they're all fire. Like I haven't watched a bad one yet, and I love this. It's funny because most of them were like 2.5, 3 hours long. Besides X was shorter. This is like an hour and 24 minutes, but it feels like a movie that like typically would be longer because it is a slow burn. It's really serious with the tone and all that, but I loved it. There's not a whole hell of a lot of horror. It's just sprinkled in here and there, but it works. It still like feels like a horror movie.
It's like a psychological horror kind of vibe.
Right. Yeah. But every performance is fire. As you mentioned, the thematics of it. I always like stuff about religion. I'm not a religious dude, but I like movies that explore religion, and especially like
Exorcist 3.
Yeah, best psychological thriller of the 90s. What
you
I
know
heard.
it, baby.
But yeah, I loved it, man. I think it's fire. And I will say, like Robbie, you mentioned how like it stuck with you. I say it all the time, but like I have to watch a movie, especially a movie like this. I have to watch it twice. I'm just not smart enough to be able to soak it in. It really like it just left me. Like I watched it and I was like, whoa. Like my fiance, she said, I was like, what do you think? She's like, I think it was really good, but I'm not smart enough to tell you why. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel.
Don't feel bad. I am the same way.
Right.
That's why I said I had to watch it like 4 times in a week. So much I missed.
Well, that's what's so nice about it being so short, because it's like, oh, yeah, I'll just pop this one out again. It's like the same length as a Stranger Things episode right now. So.
Yeah, nowadays.
Right. So I watched it again today, and I really, really enjoyed it. Then I watched a YouTube video to helped me fill me in where I was confused. But I would say after 2 viewings, I pretty much got it. And I'm curious what you guys think was actually going on in the movie. I'm sure we'll get into that. But overall, it was another great pick from Mike. So really enjoyed it.
I'm glad you liked it, man. And I love the fact that you're right. Anybody else would have made this a 2.5 hour movie.
Right.
Right. But it's an hour and a half less than. It's super tight compared to Horror Express. Like, right? Mike, you've beaten Dylan this week. We're just going to say that. Okay. But yeah, this movie was really
the
tight.
guy that doesn't like horror brings all the good horror.
Well, it's psychological, melodramatic horror. Anyway, moving on to melodramatic. Brooks, what's up, Brooks? What do you think about the movie? What'd you think about it, man? We're curious.
I liked it. I mean, I liked the message. It feels like, I'm somebody who's, as I've gotten older, I've soured more and more on religion as a concept and Christianity in particular, because it's the one I'm most familiar with. And, I thought this movie was interesting. I like movies like this that kind of, hold a mirror up to kind of like the hypocrisy a lot of people have regarding religion and how a lot of people seem to like miss the point of it. Like, especially like regarding Christianity, it seems like people are more obsessed with like a lot of the things around the figure of Christ as like a person, like him having superpowers and him like suffering and dying for our sins, than they do about, the teachings that he was trying to spread. And like, it's like, a lot of people like that, they want to feel like, persecuted, and like, it seems kind of like they have a little masochist tendencies in a way about, always wanting to be, put upon, or, oh, I'm doing this for you, I'm suffering for you, even though it's like, them trying to enforce their own rules basically on everybody else. This movie is interesting, but I mean, it's very dark, and it's pretty. But the runtime is like you say, it's really tight movie. I think it's just as long as it needs to be, and the ending was pretty. It's pretty good too.
Well, thank you for not starting off lightheartedly with any non-controversial fucking topics.
This is a comedy, by the way.
No, I mean, you're right there, man. It's saying some stuff. And one of the things I love about this movie is it's presented and executed in such a way that you can like take so many different things away from it, depending on your perspective, like how you were brought up, if you were involved in religion or the church. Like, different people will have different takeaways from this film. And I cannot wait to get into that. But the film has a very small cast. So let's not bury the lead any further. Mike, what is your favorite performance in this film? You pick the movie, you get to go first.
I mean, you really have only 2 choices. Maybe
This could be a play. This could be put together as a play and it would work. We need to put that together, Brooks. Let's write this as a play. Vern's going to design the sets. Mike's going to do the photography.
Yay.
We should make it a play and then like translate it into an anime.
Can we have a couple musical numbers?
Well, I'm going to go with, they're both equally good, but I'm going to go with, I really don't know how to say her last name. Is it Jennifer L? The lady that plays Amanda, the patient. So
yeah,
I thought she did a really good job. It's I can relate to her situation in some way or form, or somebody into that situation, and it is scary and it's not fun, and it's kind of, you're kind of weak and you can't really do anything for yourself, and it's just like her portrayal of like, let's just have fun and like live. She's still trying to live her life and not change anything to the fullest of what she can do, even though she's going through the stage 4.
And with her, there is no hope with her, right? Like it's like she knows, right? Yeah. Like these are her last days. And so that she does portray that incredibly well. And I've had my near death experiences, but I've never had to deal with something like that. like you did, Mike. So like
Right.
I can't even imagine what that's like, man.
And so and she's looking, and that was that going through chemo myself, and then being around there, you have people that are scared, and you have people that are full of hope, and then it's hard because you tried. It's like, I'm scared, and I know you're scared, but I have to be strong for you. And like she was, and Amanda's character was very strong and but she was also very cynical because like, just be happy because like that's all that matters. Like I'm gonna die, you're gonna die, we're all gonna die. Just be happy, and to fill your life with joy. And I think she could see that Maud is very lonely, and there was just she's trying to be a friend to Maud, but Maud didn't want to be a friend to her because she was more of a project.
Well, you get the idea that the gist of the movie is that Maud is a newly converted Christian who's not attached to a community of believers. So she doesn't have like a church or a body to guide her, right?
Right.
So she's kind of interpreting this all on her own. And the movie is about her trying to save Amanda's soul who is dying, right? And she's caring for her. But you're right. Amanda's trying to be like, maybe one of the last good things I could do is get this fucking chick to understand, like, you gotta enjoy your life. You can't spend it all in like in this kind of world, right?
It's in the party scene at the end when Amanda gets hit by Maud. Like that's because she's just like, just be fun, be free, loosen up, have a good time. And it's because you go back into when she gets fired and she's away from Amanda, and she's not there to. She kind of there's an old Maud and in the Maud that we see previously. The Maud's old life, she was very sexual and free and not caring, and God punished her. So she's trying to be very strict. And so when Amanda does that, Amanda's trying to have the fun, because even Amanda even flirts with Maud, and Maud doesn't know how to accept it. She's like, I
think they have more than a flirtation.
I don't know what's going on. Well, when they're doing the physical therapy, and Amanda's just like, you're a lot prettier than the other girl. And she was just like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, she didn't know how to handle that.
Yeah, she didn't know how to handle that. And so she was, and it sucks because like you can't really talk about Amanda without talking about Maud. They're both, they're polar opposites, but the exact same. She's lonely. They're both lonely, trying to find something. Amanda's trying to find it in people, and Maud is trying to find it in God.
Do you mean Katie? Katie used to be at the pub on Friday nights after the shift.
So
Katie,
the little happy nurse.
Yeah,
so you're right. You're right. 100%.
They're opposites. They're trying to come together. So it's
and there's like maybe 2 or 3 other characters, right?
And
but
then,
like, there's 4 characters. There's 4 of us, so I'm sure we can cover them all.
Right.
Well, there's each character. Of the 2 characters, everybody could have their own take on it, on how they see Amanda. So,
well, I love that. I love the dichotomy and the juxtaposition of those 2 characters in this film, and their journeys, and they're different, but at the same time they're on the same path. It's weird because they are on the same path. Like, spoilers. Both of these women are on the path to their death by the end of this movie. At the end of this movie, they're going to be dead. And the way that works and the way it's kind of thrown together is this movie's, I think, rather brilliant with with its subject matter, the way it's presenting it through these different characters. Speaking of characters, Vern, you're a character. What about you? Who do you want to highlight?
Well, might as well go with Saint Maud. I'm sure we all have something to say about her. Speaking of not knowing how to pronounce her names, would you guys say Morfydd Clark? That's the
Sounds
actress.
Good to me, man.
Yeah, it's close enough.
You know, when I was in the church, and there's a lot of hard to pronounce names in the Bible, my mentor back in the day said, just say it like you know that's how to say it, because none of those other fuckers know how to say it either. Well, right. He didn't say it. He didn't quite say it like that.
Obviously, she's great. Her performance is incredible. It's one of those where like you couldn't see someone else playing that role. It's like she's a real person that they found and was like, oh, she's perfect. But she's incredible. I love the way they sprinkle in her backstory and like Mike alluded to, like the two different versions of her. And I kind of read it as like she's one of those all or nothing type of people. Like she used to be like a hardcore party girl. She's out jerking people off in bars and getting, these angry hand jobs. And then she went full religion and dropped all that. So she's interesting in that way. And also the way she's like pretending to be human. Like I love the scene in the bar where she's just like watching other people and then trying to act like them. That's great. And yeah, she's complex and she's awkward and all that. So yeah, she's by far away like the most interesting character to me. So
she's hiding from the world with the umbrella of this new found religion, right? And that's something that, as beautiful as religion can be to a lot of people, right? For some people, it is just another form of escapism, right? And that's when you got to find the danger. And that's why it's good to latch onto a community, because then you have a grounding effect, right? So going solo in a spiritual journey can be a journey filled with danger. Let's just say that.
Miscalculations, misinterpretations.
Exactly. And that's true in the broader sense too, but she portrays that very well. And yeah, the angry hand job scene was it was like, what did you expect him to do? But he could have been like, cool, man. She fucking me personally, I'd been like, fuck, got a handy at the bar. Like, fuck yeah, come have a pizza with us. We're gonna hang out. I'm like, we can take this further.
Well, I love the way she just turns it off. She does that a couple times in the movie where she can like kind of play a role. Like she does it with the new caretaker that's taking care of Amanda, where she's sitting there, she's being really charming by the water. And then as soon as she gets the information that she needs, she just shuts it off and goes back. Like she's playing a role all the time. So she's super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Brooks?
I like the I guess the girlfriend character. It was the character who had the relationship, I guess, with the dying woman.
Carol.
Yeah, the one who was like it was getting
the sex worker.
Yeah. It's basically she was like getting paid to to party with her, because like she's like, this is like a character like seems more relatable, because she's just trying to do a job and like at the same time trying to like help this person have some like happy memories before she passes on. That's how she sees it. But then there's like this like rigid fucking frigid person who's trying to make her feel bad about it, and like make her feel like she is bad for her to take her money or something. The whole idea is like, who are you to fucking judge me? Like someone who doesn't know you, and But yeah, I mean, I like that she she didn't like go along with her bullshit. She just basically like told her what was up. She's not in the movie a whole lot either. Like she's very kind of in the background for most of the thing, but she is an important, I think she's like an important gear in the movie.
Plus she's hot as hell, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love the way Amanda reacts to her. Like when she sees that she shows up at the party,
she's into it,
she's like,
man.
oh hell yeah, like you're here, you know what I mean? I can't remember the last time I was that excited to see someone,
Oh yeah, and Maud's into it too, man. Like when she's looking through that door, like I think there's some repression obviously going on here, right? Like with her disappointment and her sexual relations with men, she's giving half-ass handies in the fucking, the foyer of the bar. She's meeting the dude, and I'm definitely not going to pick the dude who's all like, after shit, she just had like a fucking panic attack in the middle of a fucking sex. And then he's like, oh, just relax, baby. Let me finish real quick. And then he's like smoking a cigarette and all callously being like, yeah, I think you fucked my homie last year, man. Like that's the scummiest fucking dude. You know what I'm saying? And I hate that shit. But so I'll go with the fourth character is Joy. Joy's actually a good person in this film. She realizes that she's a little tough and hard on Katie, Maud, when she first sees her. but she legitimately kind of cares about her, right? So she's like trying to interject herself into her life. She understands this is a lonely young lady, and she's trying, but she just gets ignored after a certain point. You know, you get what I'm saying? But like the message with her is, even when you're at your lowest of lows, when you feel very isolated and alone, there will be someone who's trying. Don't ignore that. You get what I'm saying?
Amen.
I was about to be like, nobody gets what I'm saying. That's
Well, no. Well, one of the things about Joy is the other character that I thought about doing, because she comes in and it was just like, hey, it's good seeing you. Like, you're really working after this. It's like it's a piece of Maud's past that we're learning more about, because there's more to Maud. Like, we're not given a lot. You're given, and one of the videos that I watched where somebody was talking about some of the breakdowns, they're like, yeah, if you look at her stomach, you can see where she had. It was like, you only can get this scar when you have like something that's gone wrong with the pregnancy.
See,
And it was just like, so it's like, okay, so it's like she knows. So her life is already a little traumatic. Like, she's a little party goer, probably had an abortion, and just not paying attention and kill somebody. And then Joy brings it all in. But Joy also says, like, hey, I'm sorry a lot of us weren't there for you. Like, she admitted to her, like, hey, we're sorry. Like, it's like, we knew you were going through something, but we didn't know what you were going through. And that could have been the loss of the child. Or
an adoption, even,
right.
Something like that.
I saw that too, and then I saw in the comments, and I agree with the commenter more that it seems like self-mutilation. Like, I even Googled what stretch marks look like.
I was picking that up because that's what she's doing in this. And she is taking the idea, and this is a real thing that, like, because I was involved in the church for a while, right? For a long time in my life. And I was in training to be a pastor, but so not the Catholic Church, which I think is more what she's going into, but that's more of a ritualistic kind of thing, but we'll get to that later. But she is really focused in on the idea, like a lot of other people are, about suffering and pain. It's almost like torture porn. Christianity can be sometimes. Like, and I don't mean that to be funny. Like, that's what I mean. Like, we're supposed to partake in the suffering of Christ because we're all pieces of shit and we don't deserve it. And that's what she's doing when she she puts the tacks in her fucking feet, right? And they handled that shit way better than fucking Moon Knight did. I'm just going to say that. Okay. Right. But, that self-mutilation, self-flagellation, like, that is, Monty Python makes fun of it in that whole bit. He's all and all that shit, right? That's a part of it. There are people that literally go every goddamn Easter season and crucify themselves and drive nails through their fucking hands. I don't think that's the message of Christ. Like, suffering is life. Like, in Buddhist theory, you see a lot of parallels there, but like, it's about finding God in other people and not seeing it as something separate. Like, that really affected me. The whole idea of that you have to suffer to be a good person. That is a misconception that a lot of religions and spiritualities have brought into the frame. And I think it's all fucking fed to us because they want us to goddamn be like, okay, just keep my head down, plow through and suffer, and I'll be rewarded after I fucking die. Like, that's ridiculous. Make the most out of your life right the fuck now. And that's what Amanda, who's at the end of her life, is trying to fucking tell Maud.
Right.
Sorry. What do you think about
I think it all gets mixed up with the fact that, like, anything that you're going to do that's meaningful, you have to suffer through. So, like, there is positivity in suffering, but it gets twisted with
sacrifice. Doesn't mean suffering, I don't think. Like, it's not suffering to sacrifice an hour of sleep so I go to the gym in the morning. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
right, but that hour of the gym, if not that I ever fucking do, but if you're doing it right, from what I hear, you kind of got to suffer through it to get the results.
But not like putting fucking tacks all up in the soles of your shoes.
You're not driving nails through your palms before you go to lift weights.
You're not burning yourself.
I'm doing it wrong then.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's the extreme of the idea. Like, A lot of religions give you the solid idea. It takes sacrifice to bring joy and happiness. It does. It's true, but not to that fucking extent. Man.
Right.
Well,
not to that extent of isolation, that extent of self-mutilation. Like, it's not worth it, man. And I know people that do it, and I've done it, and it's not cool, man.
Well, and the thing too, and it's kind of jumping in with style and structure almost. Part of
we're about to get to that, so why don't you just start us off with that?
But it's the whole, what is the purpose? What's God's purpose for me? What am I supposed to do with my life? What's his master plan? Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to be on this path? Like, how do I know I'm on the right path? Because I mean, if you, I'm pretty sure we can do a whole big Google search and find a bunch of Southern Baptist preachers doing speeches, and they'll all say the same thing. It's just you got to give everything to God. You got to suffer. You don't want, like, just like everything will be okay. You just follow God's plan, God's purpose for you. And it's just kind of like, what is that? Like, I don't hear God. I don't see it. Like, what is, like, because it's just a lot of people that are lost, and it's just like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? And I know a lot of people struggle with, like, the whole things of God's purpose, but it's like, it's just one of those, like, that the preacher will tell you what your purpose is because it's what they want your purpose to be, and not what really is best for you. And then Maud's in her own head telling her what she kind of wants. Which is kind of a weird conversation. Like, you're watching her, and she's also the narrator. She's the narrator of the whole story. So you're just
an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, and everything's from her point of view, and to a degree. So it's just one of those, just like, oh shit, what kind of ride am I on right now? And especially when you get into you're like, okay, and then Crazy Train when she does the thumbtacks in the shoe.
Well, what do you think about the technical side of the film? We've been leaning into the meaning and all that stuff, but, like, what do you think about the technical stuff, the style, the structure, the craft? What do you think, Mike?
I think it was the cinematography was done really well. I think a lot of the how they show, like, the thing that we talked about earlier at the shop, how it's just like she's the whole societal issue of the lesser and the people with nothing, and the elitism, and how, sometimes it just falls through the cracks. And then, like, the way that it's shown her, it's like, oh shit, like, look at the way she comes in and out of her apartment. Look at her apartment. Like, look at how shots are done. All the voyeuristic shots, the lighting, how there was, it's just like how she's never fully, like, when she's inside, she's never really fully lit. She's more, half the face is like in darkness, half the face is in light. So it's just, is that a symbolism for, like, half's good. She's like, she thinks she's being good, but she's really falling into this darkness. So there's so many different, like, when you get into, like, even just the technical side of it, you'll have similar conversations just to the religious aspect of it, of what everything means, and what they use in the story. The cockroach, which I know we haven't really got into, which could have been another character, the fifth character. The view from the cockroach is always looking down, so the cockroach is God.
Well, yeah, there's even the part where the cockroach comes down, and when she actually, we see her speaking to God, the cockroach goes down and goes towards her little altar, and then there's a weird, like, shift in focus, right? And then, I mean, it's weird. It's weird. What does that mean? What was like, but it was the cockroach that when she's going through that traumatic experience, anybody who hasn't seen the film, spoilers, she accidentally killed a patient, right? Is responsible for it, right? And when she's sitting there covered in blood, she looks up. What does she see? She sees a cockroach. That's the moment of her her road to Damascus moment, where she's blinded by the light and goes from Saul to Paul. Do you get what I'm saying? That's the moment. So there is a connection. That's what they're trying to make. When the cockroach shows up, that means God's there in her life. It's such a weird kind of thing, but stylistically, they do a great job of portraying that. And like most A24 films, their art house, man, they are beautifully shot, impeccably rendered, and this one perfectly paced.
Look at the there's not a lot of CG in this movie, but the CG that they use, it's really well done. And it's very subtle, and like you
My favorite bit was the Tupac hologram. When he just shows up and he's like, "Who do you believe in? I put my faith in God." What about you, Vern? What do you think about style and structure?
The structure, like you said, it's tight. Like, I think the structure is like one of the best aspects of the film, and I love movies that start with an opening scene, like from the past or from a different, either in the future or in the past, that kind of sets up the mystery of what happened to make Maud the way that she is now. You know what I mean? I think the other thing that they do really well is kind of like slowly ramp up her strange behavior, to where the strange behavior and the possible like supernatural stuff of it, she starts acting more and more odd throughout the film. You start to question more and more, like, is this a supernatural? Is there something supernatural happening? So I love that, and I love that we don't really we can infer a lot, but we don't know the exact incident that happened in her past. Like, I wonder if you guys I assume that she was giving someone CPR and she crushed their chest. That's like my favorite moment in the film, besides maybe the end of the movie, which I'll say, as far as structure wise, I also love movies that just end. Like, there's no falling action. It just leaves you like kind of breathless and like, whoa. Like the way the movie ends is is great.
Coen Brothers are a big forefront of that. Like, a lot of their films did that before this A24 wave. And a lot of their films do that, don't they? They just like end. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the same way. You just, when it cuts off right there at the end, you're like, what the fuck did I just watch?
Right.
Like, hold on. Let me rewind. Let me watch this again. Like, okay, is this really what I just...
There's a few different ways to look at that, but I think the most common way, and I think the intended way, is that this is all in her head, motherfucker.
Right.
She is there on the beach. She thinks she's got this glorious moment where she's about to rise in. This is like Donnie Darko, but if Donnie Darko ended and you're like, no, this kid just fucking died, and none of this is all in his head, right? They don't leave that, but a lot of A24 films do that. Green Knight ends like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Right, where it's just like, and you're like, did he lose his head or not?
I took it the same way, though. It's pretty much confirmation that it's all in her head. You get just half second of reality.
Or she's burning in hell because it was a demon that latched onto her soul.
Right. Style wise, obviously, Mike, you hit on, like, I love the lighting of the film. It's so dark and it puts you in the mood. There's not many bright colors. It kind of, in a lot of ways, if they didn't mention the internet a couple times, you might think this was a movie that took place in the 70s or the 60s. Like, I think that's part of it, because
or the 1870s or the 1860s. Right. It could work. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's brilliant, man. Like you mentioned, I can't believe this is this woman's first film, because it doesn't feel like it.
There's a YouTube channel called Acolytes of Horror. Fantastic YouTube channel. Does deep dives into the thematic meaning of certain films. He did a video on this one. He said that the lighting made it look like there was always darkness ready to swallow Maud up. Always. And that the candle, like, she's lit by candle a lot, right? They do that in The Others, which is a great film, and I love the cinematography there, but the candle is almost like the flickering hope of faith in the midst of an all-consuming darkness. Like, when all you got is this one candle and the cold and the wind is coming at you, you're fucked. You get what I'm saying? So I love it. What do you think about the style and structure, Brooks?
Well, I mean, this movie's, I think it's the style is good, for what it is. And like I said, it is the pacing is very good. It builds up tension pretty quick. Like, and this movie is like even the most simple things tend to have kind of like an ominous feel to them, throughout this movie, at least for me. It's like, it's just like this kind of building up tension of, this character who's just like this. So it's like you can tell that, she's going through some stuff. And the soundtrack, I think, is well utilized in this movie too, to that end. And like, I think if this movie dragged out too much, it would not have worked as well. I think like, them kind of, cutting like the hour and 20-minute mark is like, it's like just right for this movie. Like, I can't think of anything else that, because you don't want to elaborate too much on something in a movie like this, because this movie is like all about symbolism and interpretation and, taking what you see out of it. So you don't want to over explain things. So, this movie is like, as far as that goes, I think it's, as good as you can ask for.
I would dig on that 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the music. It's by Adam Junata Brzezowski. And I'm going to look up real quick what else he's known for. It's really just this and a couple other little tiny things. He hasn't really done much since this. Let's see, The Marsh King's Daughter, Here Before, Ram of God, which was a short film. Not a lot of work. I love the fucking music in this film. It's unnerving. It's unsettling. It's big and religious and choral when it needs to be. But it's also got this kind of like creeping. It's the creeping of isolation. And when it permeates your life and starts taking over everything. And the music really is constructed in a way that fits that tone for me. What do you think about the music, Mike?
I'll be honest, like I was so into the film that I really didn't notice the music, because it was just kind of like if you're watching something and like it's just like it would be like oh shit, what the fuck's going on? Like the music was just would draw you in to what you're watching and what's happening. So, and the creepiness of it, like the creepiness of everything, and it's one of those just like, oh wow, like crap, I forgot. Like there isn't, like yeah, I remember the music, but like it brought me, it added to my emotional weight into the movie that I just wasn't really sitting there picking it out. Mm-hmm. There was a lot more of the sound effects of everything that I heard that caught my attention more, that I thought was cool, like the voice of God and just a lot of some of the ambient sounds they used, like that's.
And the voice of God is Maud.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't pick up. I heard someone else say that. I didn't notice that while watching it. The voice of God sounded insane. Like it was so intense.
Yeah, and it's speaking in Welsh.
Right.
Yeah, which is interesting. Hell yeah, Mike. You're right. When the music does its job, you don't really notice it. But you knew you were going to be on PCP Movie Night. You know, right. We always do this around this time, but that's okay. What about you, Vern? What do you think about the music?
Well, I'll just be honest with you. No, I mean, this is kind of how it is. Either sometimes you'll notice the music because it's so fucking good, or it's like it's such a part of the movie where they want you to notice it, or sometimes it's just you're so into the movie that it fits and it doesn't stand out. There were moments where it stood out for sure that I noticed it a lot, but it was very well done. Other than that, I don't really have a lot to fucking say about it.
No, you're right. I mean, it doesn't have the recognizable theme. You know, it doesn't repeat something. It's not a John Carpenter score.
Right.
Right. But it does perform exactly what it needs to do for its function in the movie, which means that you don't notice it because you don't want a noticeable John Carpenter-esque score in this film. Do you get what I'm saying? So y'all are right. I'm just joshing with you. Speaking of Josh, Brooks' real name is not Josh. Brooks, what do you think about the music?
I like the music. I think it worked well. You know, it is a good soundtrack for this movie, pretty much. And I like it, you know, this movie, like a lot of these kind of suspense thriller types, it kind of depends on like silence and only utilizing the soundtrack, you know, when absolutely necessary. And I like the way that like the soundtrack in this movie kind of creeps up on you sometimes. And like it really adds to the atmosphere of the thing. You could call it maybe atmospheric.
Yeah, it is very atmospheric. And in the time that, honestly, everybody mostly, like if you're just watching the movie and you're engrossed in it, the first time you really notice the music is the end of the film. And that's beautiful to me because that means it's good.
Right.
And I listen to some of the scores isolated, and they don't make good just listening. Like, don't just put it on, be like, that's not going to happen.
Go jogging, listen to some
go
State
jogging,
Mod
listen.
soundtrack.
Yeah, it ain't going to work because at first you'd be like, is this playing? Is this playing? Because it almost every track starts like this. Then it takes moments to build. Speaking of building, this movie's building a lot of thought, and I think there's a lot of thematic relevance in this film, and I love the way it's put together because I think so many different people can pull so many different things from it. What is this movie saying to you, Mike? What's its theme?
Oh man, it's got several different themes. But I'm going to go with the one that I went with earlier in describing Amanda, and that it's you need people in your life. You can't be alone. The loneliness it sucks, and you need people in your life. So that's the it would reach out to your friends and but then again, like, oh man, you can
the Joy situation, like when your friend's reaching out to you, respond.
Yeah, respond. But she was so far gone. But it's like when your friend reaches out, you need to like, hey, and eventually, if you don't feel comfortable with it, talking about what you need to talk about, just rekindle that friendship, and then over time, and be like, this is what's really bothering me, and this is what I need help with, and it's okay to ask for help. Like she put her hands through somebody's chest and killed him. That's a lot of weight on somebody. Like I've never done that, so I don't know how that feels. So, but I'm pretty sure it can be pretty much enough to where she never could work in the industry again. Like she had to change her name to get a job. So like just
Joy even said that, right? Like, do they know what happened?
Right. I love the subtlety of that scene right there.
So, but it's just like,
because you're right. We still don't know. Like that's just her vision. We shouldn't trust anything that Maud sees. Right?
Hells yeah.
Yeah. So just if you're alone and you're feeling out there, just reach out to somebody. And if somebody's trying to reach out to you, be accepting of their help.
Hell yeah.
But then again, it sucks because it's just like, it's one of those things where it's just like, is this person really wanting attention? But then again, when it comes to like that, it's good. It doesn't matter what kind of attention that I get, positive or negative. I just need attention in my life, and I think we see like this. I think we see her, but we see that in her being the very over religious, and then when God turns his back on her, and she's back out in the crowd partying. So,
hell yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot to it.
Hell yeah, there is, man. Speaking of a lot to it, what about you, Vern Diggity? What do you Diggity think this movie's about?
I got to go along the same kind of thing because I was thinking that earlier. I'm like, okay, it's like the biggest thing I take away from it is that you need other like influences. You need to be able to bounce your ideas off of other people. Anytime that everything is inside, like if you're the only one, I'll relate it to like content creative or any creative endeavor. There's a reason why editors exist. We need a second set of eyes or ears to look or listen to something to be like, oh, maybe you ever think about it this way? Maybe you're going too far this way. And clearly she takes the religion. She takes things too far as the religion goes. So
you're saying she just does like one take 40-minute videos and doesn't do any cuts? Is that's what's going on here?
No. Well, maybe. But I mean, you wouldn't do that if Mike was like, hey, you know what? You should try this. Maybe you say pow pow or whatever the fuck you say.
I'd be like, dude, I ain't got the time for that, Mike. You know it.
Not that, but as far as you need to listen to people, or at least take criticism, take other people's ideas into account when you're doing life. You can't just live life in a vacuum because your ideas myopic. Will turn to shit.
Yeah, it can't be myopic, and that's one thing she is in this film. She is set on
Got to Google
her vision
myopic.
of what this is. One. Go ahead.
Nearsighted. That's what I got.
No, myopic means like one, like you're only got one thing in your vision. You get what I'm saying?
Lacking imagination, foresight, or intellectual insight. Okay.
There you go. Close-minded.
There you go.
Right, narrow-minded, one might say. Speaking of narrow-minded, what about you, Brooks? What do you think this movie's trying to say to you and your narrow-minded ass?
Well, I think this movie is a lot about like self-righteousness and like how people can, feel like they're doing the right thing, but really they're doing it more for themselves than they are for who they think they're doing it for.
Yes.
Like this, she's responsible for like taking care of this woman who is dying, who like, doesn't have very many days. And she thinks, her way, like, pouring out her liquor, trying to keep, bad influences away from her is the way to, save her, but she's not really doing it for her. She's doing it so she can feel better about herself. And, I thought that's why I like the whole point, the thing where she gives her that William Blake collection as a gift. That's her way of like trying to offer her, like, because like William Blake was like a guy who, he was a very religious, very spiritual man, but he also like, he hated how like, a lot of the fundamentalist religion of his time took something that was supposed to be very beautiful and deep and, personal, and just turned it into another, they just, made it miserable. And, that was her reaching out, trying to, show her like, there's another path. You don't have to, self-flagellate, you can, there are different ways, to do this. But, it's sad, but a lot of people, can't do that. They are very entrenched in like, the old world ways of thinking. And, it usually ends up, sad, like kind of like how this movie ended.
Yeah. I mean, Maud completely misinterpreted the William Blake.
It's like, it seems like she feels like the more she's suffering, the closer she is to Jesus, because, it's kind of like that thing in Christianity, like, how do you feel close to Jesus? Like me personally, I'm like, you study his teachings and you follow his teachings. But a lot of people, like, they don't think that, they go the opposite way. So like, how he suffered for sins and all this other stuff, which I think is like nonsense. But
Brooks, if I ask you the question, what is the gist of the teachings of Christ? What would you say?
Well, it's the simplest part, it's like, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Love other people.
Like, that
right?
is the basic spine of like all Christian. That's pretty much it.
Love others, right?
Yeah.
Maud is not presented as someone who loves other people.
Yeah.
She is always referring to them as, like, when she first meets Amanda, she's like, oh, she'll probably die soon. She'll be on to see you soon. It's not until she gets the opportunity that she thinks to save her soul, where she starts feeling this purpose. And it's the idea that self-loathing is a selfish fucking way to live, right? Like, we can all have pity on people like Maud and be like, oh, it sucks to fucking hate yourself that much. But at the same time, that's a very selfish way to live. Like, if you are filled with that much self-hatred, you're thinking nothing but from your perspective. And that's what this whole movie is. It's from Maud's perspective. So like everybody was saying, it's about looking at another perspective. It's about reaching out to your friends. It's about trying to widen things. But when you're in this narrow-minded, myopic point of view, right? Like, you're not focused on that. You're self-centered on your own fucking pain, your own suffering. Well, guess what, everybody? We all fucking suffer. Life is hard. We all have tragedies, heartbreaks. We all have days where we don't want to fucking keep going. You're not special. We're all fucking like this. You're not a special and unique, beautiful snowflake. You're not your khakis.
It's not what Mr. Rogers said. I'm just saying.
We are unique and special, but at the same time, we're fucking not.
Right.
In Tyler, we trust.
We're really fucking not. And here's the thing. It's about loneliness, isolation, religion, and madness, and how all four of those things can coalesce on someone, right? You got to reach out. You got to have a community. You've got to understand. So I was raised in the Baptist church here in Alabama, and I was dedicated to that for a while. I had some shit happen. I've talked about this on other interviews and shit I've done across the YouTube and podcast platform. But I decided about 7 years ago I'd go for another direction. And the direction I went in didn't give me a community support, right? I was learning things, new philosophies, new ideas, new techniques. I was learning them on my own and trying to do them on my own. And I hit a point where I thought, because when I started that journey, a lot of shit went wrong. Had a lot of loss, death, and tragedy in my life for like a year, for a while. And at a certain point, I reached out to what I thought was my community, which was a fucking Facebook group. And it was like, what is going on here? And someone was like, you really are fucking, Crowley's got you by the balls. You think this is all about you. And that woke me up. I was like, it's not all about me. Nothing that's happening to me right now is any different than anything that's ever happened to me before. But it also told me the danger of when you're trying to go a spiritual path on your own and you don't have something to ground you. You got to keep that in focus. And you can never get too airy in your head. You got to stay grounded and understand that we are all the same. We're not better than one another because we pray more or we meditate more or we walk more or go to the gym more or anything like that. It's all a trick to make us feel like we're above other people. And now it's our journey and our mission to save them. That's not the purpose of life, is to save others. The purpose of life is not to dominate others and make them feel or understand that your way is the right way. And that's something that happens in a lot of religions, a lot of personal spiritualities, and a lot of what happens in this movie with Maud. She doesn't give a shit about people until it is her saving someone. Because she's scared of the fucking world, bruh. She tells that homeless guy, she gives him money. And she says what? She says, may God never let your pain go to waste. And he goes, what'd you say? She runs the fuck away.
Nothing.
What do you guys make of that exact saying? Because they repeated a couple times.
It's the whole thing with through pain and suffering.
Pain leads to transcendence.
Right.
Is the idea, right?
Like fuel your change with the pain.
Every time if you go back, she puts herself and she burns herself. She walks on the nails. She does when she does all of that to atone for her sexual activity, the handy and the weird sex scene and the drinking.
That's why she translates her sexual desires into the God visions, because those are orgasmic, bruh, when those happen.
I just want to point out, she gives that hand job with the hand that's got the bandage wrapped around it. It's like, that can't feel nice. Worse. Even worse, man. It's too much friction.
But yeah, so that was
what makes it hot, dude.
That's the whole thing. Is that
you didn't bring no shampoo or lotion or nothing? Yeah, face lotion.
They got soap, hand soap in the
hand soap dries up really quick. Not that I would know.
And it might burn, depending on the brand.
No, but just the idea, like, it's a dangerous road to go on. You got to be grounded. You got to have a community, and never, the moment that you feel like some sense of self-righteousness because of the path you're on, question it. And bring yourself back down.
And the thing too, what you were talking about, like what you went through, like I was not 100%. When you were doing all that, I was very skeptical, but I was just like, hey man, if this is what you want to do, I love you and I support you.
Still doing, my friend, just so you know. I got a better head on my shoulders now.
But it's just one of those things too where it was just kind of
It's a scary path when you go down a spiritual journey on your own. It is scary. You hear voices and shit. I'm not even fucking kidding. You just got to find a way to ground it.
I have not done the alone because it's one of those, like, I've asked you several questions about it. I've done stuff myself, and it's just kind of like, all right, cool. And I really haven't gone it alone, but I also haven't done that deep dive of everything that you're doing. I'm not like, I don't like the whole meditation part of everything on it. Like, nah, I ain't doing that. I need to, but I don't. But then again, I learned through what you went through So it's like you went through the path first, and then you were like, hey, this is what everything that you need to listen to or look up. Like this is what you like. I can't tell you what direction to go, but like this is the information that you need. So, but
Yeah.
you are right, and it is scary because it's just like I don't like I'm half-assing it. I've never made like a full commitment to it. It's just one of those like I'm just just dancing around using it. But
All right. Well, we don't need to go too deep into that. I don't want.
No.
We're not going to get into a Teen Dog Shades night tonight or nothing. But all right, time to rate the film. I think what you need to take out of this is that there's a lot of meaning and relevance in this film. You could pull so much out of this, so much. But like Albert said, anyone who thinks they're better than anyone else is missing the point. Maud was missing the point of her spirituality, 100%. So, out of 5 possible you digs, you out there in the chat, if you've seen the movie, what did you think? Rate it below right now in the comments. And you, Mike, out of 5 possible you digs, what do you give St. Maud?
Straight up 5, hands down. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's just, it is that good. Like I said, it's thick, it's heavy. I had to watch it a few times just to go through it. Like I understood, like, yeah, she was talking to herself, but like the jump cut at the very end is so quick. Like that's why I said I had to go back and watch it because it's like, I knew.
We keep
like,
talking about the hand jobs and the goddamn porn bots keep showing up. I'm
Right.
sorry, Mike.
Was that like 3 separate ones? Or was it like
Yes. I don't know, man.
was it like a ninja that makes illusions of himself?
There is something weird we notice on Dylan's Horror Show. It's like after we mention certain things, they start showing up, man.
Keywords.
Ding ding.
Feel like jerking off?
I'm just talking about the acetone part. So when she cleanses herself, which is and the funny thing too is that I noticed it in the film, and then when I was watching somebody's critique on the film, they're like, "Yeah, that lighter doesn't work throughout the whole entire film till the very end."
I didn't notice that, but I heard that too. That's cool.
Yeah, because it's like
A miracle.
Right.
Yeah, and
And
like that whole thing was
lighter
just.
We've all
beginning,
had
I'm
that
like,
happen though, where you're trying to light a bowl for days with one lighter and you can't, and then all of a sudden it
God damn it,
works.
it's my last lighter.
You get one light out of
one.
it. You
And you're
better
like,
fucking get it.
And
Oh,
like
shit,
that,
it's still burning.
Keep it going. Don't break the cipher. Don't break the cipher.
and I know we haven't really even like this has been kind of spoiler free about the end, but like the whole beach scene is just like what the fuck.
Oh no, we don't fake the funk here. We're spoiling everything, man. Maud winds up killing fucking Amanda because she thinks Amanda's this demonic shit, and she goes out and thinks that she's like ascending to heaven on the beach, but she's actually just pouring fucking shit on her, and she burns to death.
Was she seeing
Someone
this?
stop her.
So throughout the film,
I know that. I love the listening to the background. What's
Yeah.
she doing? Someone fucking stop her.
like nobody stopped.
Everybody else is like this.
Yeah. Either that or
But
get
that
a
was-
selfie
that-
with it in the background.
That
Oh
was
no
her-
shit! Like yo, look at this crazy chick.
She burned it. I like the port, like the when she looked up to the sky and it had the constant swirl, the portal to heaven.
It's the Donnie Darko shit, right? I'm
Like,
like,
that
wait,
was-
what is Donnie Darko really about now?
Like
I
some
think I was
Junji
wrong.
Ito shit there.
Yeah, no shit, right?
But the whole point of the jump scare is her on fire, and it's holy. It's her scream too. That's another thing that because it's very. If you notice, it's very quiet and it's very oh, and then you just hear her scream, or you don't hear her scream. Is it the flames? You hear the flames.
You hear the I think you hear her scream.
Yeah.
I think you get
Yeah.
I mean, but it's just
But it's
it's
the
a
It's
quarter
like
flames
of a
it's a
second.
millisecond.
Yeah. But no, it's the flames you hear, and you're just like, ooh, like that's very cringy.
When everyone drops to their knees too. That's just it's great.
She gets the wings. You're like, yeah.
So a perfect score from Mike. What about you, Verno?
Man, I've been thinking 4.5 all day. I'm tempted to go 5, but I'm gonna go 4.5 just because like there are similar movies that I might like better. like, not that Midsummer is similar, but I guess it's similar in a way that there's things like visually that, even though it's beautifully shot and it looks great, it's not my favorite style of film or favorite, you know what I mean, compared to something like Midsummer or other films that are brighter and more colorful, little touches
You
of
could
humor.
watch this 2 times by the time you finish Midsummer, by the way.
Right. No, and I feel that. I'll go 4.5, a very solid 4.5, maybe even a 4.75 if those are allowed here on PCP movie night.
We allow a 69.
Okay, 4.69 then for sure. Great movie, something I will tell people to check out. And I don't know why I'm thinking of it. All of these movies, Hereditary, Midsummer, all of the A20X, when I look them up on Prime, they all get like 3.5 stars. And I think it's so funny. Like the general public, people that just like, oh, I'm in the mood for a horror film, let me click on this. They don't like these movies.
They want slasher. That's all they want. And it just like, I thought this was a horror film. Like it is, and it's just like there was no gore in it.
Well, there's different levels of it, and somebody like me and Dylan and Verno now, obviously, totally a part of us. We know the different degrees of what horror films are and what they do. Right. You don't go to St. Maud wanting Friday 13th, the final chapter. And you don't go to Friday 13th, the final chapter, wanting Midsummer.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Where were the jump scares in this movie, dude?
Right.
It was at the very end, apparently. Who was that? That was Delaney on Dr. Sleep. It's like, there's no jump scares. Like, bruh, I don't think this movie's supposed to have jump scares.
No, it's not that kind of thing. Although I just watched Insidious, and it's full of jump scares, and it's incredibly entertaining. It's an old film. Most people have seen it, but
I haven't seen it.
It was the first one that I'd watched in a while that it was like, you know, one of those jump scary movies that I was like, that was fucking fun. That was very entertaining, and I enjoyed the jump scares. The rhythms that they were able to get with those scares were phenomenal, I think.
I'm going to let you all know Delaney's thoughts. Delaney wanted to be here, but he wound up having to work late. So Delaney wanted me to let y'all know that he says St. Maud is 3.5, you digs. It's short, but the payoff is lacking. I really wish he was here with us tonight because I would love to see what the fuck he thought was lacking about that payoff. So I thought the payoff was fucking...
What a coward move.
Wasn't enough gore, wasn't enough Tams.
What about
a horror movie to him?
There's some booty in there though. What about you, Brooks? Speaking of booty, what do you give this out of 5, you digs?
I'd give it a 4.5 too. Like it is a great movie. But it has has such a grim nature about it that like I don't feel like this is one I'd be like, you know, more apt to go back to unless I had like, you know, had a certain mood on me. But I mean, it is still like, you know, I can still acknowledge that it's a really good movie. And I do like, you know, the story and the themes and everything. It's just a bit heavy, you know, in a way for me. It kind of like puts me in a mindset that's a little darker than I like sometimes.
I just want to point out that you gave Dead Man, which is a movie completely about death, a 5, you digs. And you don't think that's a
kind of an adventure too.
I'm just kidding. It's got that Odyssey kind of feel to it, right? Yeah.
This is a buddy film about 2 women and their journey towards death. All right, there you go.
I'd like to remake this film with Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. Let's do that. Let's do that.
Brilliant.
For me, I'm going to go 4.69. I think it's the highest point of 4.5. So here in PCP land, we call that a 4.69. And I could easily go 5. But I think I got to ground myself a little bit, not get caught up in the own voice of God in my head, the voice of the film God in my own head, and get pretentious and be like 5. Though, Mike, it's a totally respectable thought because I thought about 5 a lot. But I will go to a 4.69 because if this is Rose Glass's first film, and that's got to be a fake name. But if this is Rose Glass's first film, holy shit, what the fuck is next? Do you get what I'm saying? And the fact... My favorite part of this film, out of everything we've talked about, this movie from anybody else at age 24 would have been a 3-hour fucking director's cut. This movie is less than an hour and a half, gets it fucking done, but maintains that slow pace, just like X does. But it doesn't get as exhilarating as X because it doesn't have as much tits and dick in it as X does. Anyway,
that Maud booty is a nice booty, though. It's, you know, it's a pretty solid booty.
Yeah. And I like how sometimes sex isn't very fucking nice.
Right.
Sometimes sex is really just kind of like gross. And the sex scene in this movie, they're so gross. You're like, this is not exciting at all. And I love it. So 4.69 from me and Verno, a 5 from Mike, and a 4.5 from Brooks for a PCP average of 4 point. Holy shit. 69 dudes. Isn't that crazy how that worked?
Very.
And apparently Two Guns, the only other person who watched it, gave it a 4.069, you digs. So, Mike, thank you so much for picking this movie. I had a lot of fun chatting about it. Next week, we conclude Crew's Choice with Brian's pick, Isle of Dogs. Wes Anderson film. I've never seen it. Very excited to dig into it. Where is it streaming? Let's see.
Talking
Isle
about
of
pretentious
Dogs.
films.
What the hell? It's on Disney Plus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You can rent it on other places, but it is on Disney Plus. I think most people have Disney Plus because they're watching Obi-Wan and Miss Marvel and Star Wars and all that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday on Dylan's Horror Show. I won't be here. I'll be at Heroes Con. However, Verno and Dylan will be there. They're talking about Eaten Alive. It's a 70s Toby Hooper movie, which I've never seen. So, Vern, let me know if you like it.
I'm looking forward to checking it out.
So next week, Isle of Dogs. But Saturday is Eaten Alive on Dylan's Horror Show. And then after next week, we're taking a week break. Then we start Action Fest. I just revealed the lineup for that. Takis here says, sorry guys, been distracted by Naked, HD, XYZ. Stop jerking. Cheaper than Tinder. Anyway, that is the review tonight. Thank you so much for picking this, Mike. Any final thoughts?
Never waste your pain.
Very nicely put. What about you, Vern Diggity? Final thoughts?
Never waste your pain.
What about you, Brooks? Final thoughts?
Don't set yourself on fire. It'll be embarrassing because everybody will film it.
And my final thoughts will be, only set yourself on fire if you're sure that you won't waste your pain. We'll see you next time on PCP Movie Night, y'all.